Turning now to the Department of Immigration. Several new initiatives within the Department of Immigration have been implemented this year. Effective April 1, the work permit holders' competency with the English language policy was implemented. Following a consultative process with relevant stakeholders that resulted in no objection or comment from any of these groups, the policy was implemented. The issue of guest workers in the various sectors of the workforce who have difficulty understanding basic English has for many years often been a vexing topic amongst locals and residents alike. While it is appreciated that employers in a number of industries are finding it more and more difficult to recruit from English-speaking countries, it is unacceptable to have foreigners serving persons, whether it is in a restaurant, a hotel, or a restaurant, who cannot communicate effectively in English. Further, a lack of competence in English is dangerous in a job where one has to also read prescriptions or the labels of dangerous chemicals. The Department of Immigration provides an overseeing role of the policy and responds to concerns raised with the Department regarding work permit holders' inability to demonstrate basic competence with the English language. Effective May 1, a new visa requirement for Panamanian, Dominican Republic, Philippine nationals, and all high-risk nationals that currently appear on the United Kingdom Direct Airside Visa List was instituted following several complaints to the Department. Placing these nationals on the visa control list permits the Department of Immigration to more closely vet applications for work permits, visas, or residency. To remind, there are currently 92 countries requiring a Bermuda entry visa. So this should not be seen as singling out these nationals. In this regard, we follow the United Kingdom. When countries are placed on the UK Direct Airside Transit Visa List, we follow suit. I have reported extensively already on the need for restricted persons to validate their land holdings before the new deadline of December 31st, 2010. So I shall not rehash much here, except to say there has been some positive movement from some in the community seeking information on the subject. We have seen a significant increase in the number of applications since the further amendment, and are currently about 2 months behind in processing this council with a view to what I will say at this stage is that they include the names of some very prominent Bermudians, both in and out of the legal profession. I can confirm that we are very close to the launch of the electric land license register that will greatly assist in the management of property owned by restricted persons. I can also report a marked increase in Bermuda status applications, several from spouses who have long since met the requirement. Concurrently and correspondingly, an increase in land license applications has also been seen since the extension of the deadline. I again encourage anyone who is interested in this topic to contact the Department. For the advancement of the Bermudian workforce, there must be a shift of attitude amongst some Bermudians seeking employment. They must realize that the jobs and careers of tomorrow require necessary education and certification so that Bermuda can remain competitive in the international community. The Department of Immigration is liaising directly with the Department of Labor and Training before considering issuing work permits. Some Bermudians have a sense of entitlement. They feel, since they are Bermudian, they should get a job over a non-Bermudian candidate even if they are not qualified. I mean to say that cannot be so. Bermudians must take responsibility so that we all proceed into the future competitive and armed with the skills and ownership to take on the employment positions needed to run our country. With this new sense of ownership, responsibility, and unity, Bermuda will be able to prevail through any circumstance. I've also seen several bright, energetic young people who cannot find employment. In particular, one young man who had applied for 21 jobs without even an interview. So there are two sides to this coin. Those Bermudians who want to work and those who do not. That said, a balance has to be struck between these competing priorities and the realities of the workplace. As such, in response to significant complaints, a moratorium has been placed on work permits for certain job categories. This will be extended to other categories as the need arises. A reduction in jobs in Bermuda must result in a corresponding reduction in work permits. Fewer jobs require fewer workers. I cannot send Bermudians anywhere, so it must be the non-Bermudians who get sent in. In spite of the worldwide economic downturn and the consequent loss of jobs, there is great resistance by many foreigners to the non-renewal of work permits. We are seeing a marked increase in the number of employers, and indeed some guest workers, challenging the provisions of the Bermuda Immigration and Protection Act. I have been threatened. My staff has been threatened. All by people who seem to think that somehow they have a divine right to remain in Bermuda forever. We presently have about a dozen cases in various stages of dispute, either through the courts or lawyers writing to the department. Up until last week, all of these suits were against me as the minister responsible for immigration. But now there is an attempt to sue me in my personal capacity. So let me put all of them on notice. As some have already learned, we will fight just as aggressively to protect the rights of Bermudans up to and including naming and shaming the guilty. The suggestion of introducing work permit cards the size of credit cards for greater efficiency resulted in a deafening outcry from certain members of the public. This feature will be a natural byproduct of the automation of the work permit application process, which as a result of other pressing budgetary priorities remains a work in progress. The aim was to allow compliance inspectors an easy means of identifying legitimate workers, particularly on construction job sites. As an interim measure, we have employed the technology currently at our fingertips, BlackBerries. All inspectors are now issued BlackBerries with the ability to readily access the work permit database, including photographs, from any location. So no longer is it necessary to leave a job site where the investigation is taking place to return to the office to access the information. This is now done on-site via BlackBerries where the inspectors are. I have reported previously on the plans by the Identity and Passport Office, an agency of the British government, charged with the production of both British passports, those issued by overseas territories governments, and the United Kingdom, the European Union passports, to cease allowing overseas territories governments to issue passports. The plan is to implement this new procedure in 2012. Without too much effort, one can imagine the chaos this is likely to create in every territory. In our case, the average yearly demand for passports is 7,400. However, it is anticipated that once Bermudians become aware that the printing of passports will be moved to the UK, there will be a rush on passport applications locally. We are prepared for this eventuality by ordering an additional supply of these passports. As a result of recent communications from the UK government on this subject, it has been agreed to add this as an agenda item for the Overseas Territories Consultative Council meeting being held next month in the UK. Recently, we have seen a worldwide increase in the challenges faced by Sri Lankan nationals in securing visas to transit various countries to get to Bermuda. At considerable expense to the Bermudian taxpayer, we have recently had to escort several Sri Lankan nationals to their homeland as a result of refusals by both the United States and the United Kingdom governments to grant visas. As such, effective immediately, no work permits will be approved for Sri Lankan nationals unless the applicant already holds a valid multiple entry visa for the USA or the UK. A major shift in policy, but considering the expense that it is costing the Bermudian taxpayer, one that I feel is necessary. There are still improvements to be made in all areas of the Department of Immigration, but I believe we are on the right path to achieving greater success. Let me end this report on the Department of Immigration by thanking the Chief Immigration Officer in her absence, Ms. Rosie Azar, and represented today by the Deputy Chief Immigration Officer, Dr. Danette Mean, and the entire team for their sterling efforts this year in improving customer service.